This is Radio Taiwan International.
Welcome to the news on Radio Taiwan International. I'm Joey Chow, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan, and we begin with a look at today's top stories for 2025, September 30th. First, Taiwanese foreign envoy spoke at Poland's top security forum. Analysts say that the U.S. 50-50 chip split is unclear, but likely a push for more Taiwanese investment. Finally, leaders call Taiwan's exclusion from the UN agencies unacceptable. But first, today's top story. Taiwan's Foreign Minister Lin Jialong delivered a speech at the 12th Warsaw Security Forum on Monday, stressing that Taiwan, with its technological strength and democratic values, is a reliable and trusted partner for Europe and the wider world. Organized by Poland's Casimir Pulaski Foundation, the forum is regarded as one of Europe's leading annual security conferences. Since its launch in 2014, the Warsaw Security Forum has hosted senior officials, defense experts, and business leaders from around the globe. This year marked the first time that a Taiwanese foreign minister had been invited to address the event, underscoring Taiwan's growing visibility in European strategic discussions. In his keynote, titled Reinvention of the Global Democratic Supply Chain, Lin identified four major disruptions to global supply chains in recent years: the COVID-19 pandemic, the Russo-Ukrainian War, and other regional conflicts, the alignment of authoritarian regimes, and the rise of nationalism and deglobalization. He said these challenges highlight the urgent need for like-minded democracies to work together to strengthen and rebuild global supply chains based on shared values and trust.
Taiwan can help amplify Europe's industrial might and remarkable capability for innovation. It is high time for Europe to stand with Taiwan to forge a robust coalition for our shared values and halt the expansion of authoritarian regimes. Taiwan is ready to work with Europe.
Lin added that Taiwan serves as a hub of the global technology ecosystem and has become a driving force in advancing innovation in the AI era. He said Taiwan will pursue more pragmatic and forward-looking policies to encourage local companies to expand into European markets. At the same time, he urged Europe to increase its investment in Taiwan, calling on partners to, quote, chip in with Taiwan to jointly promote AI innovation and ensure resilient supply chains. Analysts say the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick's call for a Taiwan-U.S. 50-50 semiconductor production split was more likely aimed at pressuring Taiwan to expand investment in the United States and help build a complete supply chain. Earlier this year, Taiwan Semiconductor Company, TSMC, pledged an additional $100 billion investment in Arizona, raising its total U.S. commitment to $165 billion. Once complete, about 30% of its sub-2 nanometer capacity would be located at its U.S. plant. Lutnick floated the 50-50 concept during media interview amid ongoing Taiwan and U.S. trade talks, saying he hoped to lift America's chip self-efficiency to 40% by the time he leaves office, a goal that would require more than $500 billion in investment. Nobunaga Chai, Vice President of Cloud Express Edge Lab, an independent platform on policy and industry, said Lutnick did not clarify whether the split referred only to advanced nodes or included mature processes, or whether it was measured by chip volume or production value. TSMC's sub-5 nanometer capacity totals 450,000 wafers per month, while its 6 Arizona fabs, once complete, would produce 190,000 to 200,000 wafers monthly. Factoring in other advanced fabs in the U.S., he said, the 50% target could be achievable.
If you add Intel's Oregon fab under construction and Samsung's Texas fab, both producing at the 1.8 nanometer and 2 nanometer nodes, then combining Samsung's and Intel's capacity together, the U.S. could actually reach the so-called 50% share of global advanced node production. It wouldn't be that difficult.
Chai added the U.S. strategy effectively asks Taiwan to share the financial burden of expanding America's chip base. He urged Taipei to keep room for negotiation, citing South Korean President Lee Jae-min's pushback against similar U.S. demands. At the UN General Assembly's 80th General Debate, world leaders urged the United Nations to allow Taiwan's meaningful participation in public health, technology, and disasters relief, saying the call was not about taking sides, but about pragmatic cooperation. The debate ran from September 23rd to 27th and on September 29th Eastern Time. On the final day, St. Lucia Foreign Minister Alva Baptiste said his country supported Taiwan's participation in the UN system. He emphasized that UN Resolution 2758, passed in 1971, did not prohibit or exclude Taiwan from taking part in UN bodies. On September 27th, St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister Terence Michael Drew voiced support for Taiwan's international participation, highlighting its contributions in health, technology, and disaster response. He warned that closing the door on such cooperation could create unbearable risks for the world. Drew added that this year's UNGA theme, Better Together, was undermined by excluding Taiwan from organizations such as the World Health Organization and the International Civil Aviation Organization, which weakens collective efforts to tackle global challenges. Earlier on September 26th, St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Ralph E. Gonsalves, Tuvalu Prime Minister Felipe Teo, and Belize Prime Minister John Bracino also underscored Taiwan's role. Bracino invoked the UN's own vision of, quote, leaving no one behind, calling it unacceptable that Taiwan's 23 million people remain excluded. This Tuesday morning, the Central Emergency Operations Center, CEOC, held a meeting regarding the Matai'an River disaster in Hualien. The cabinet has determined that Typhoon Ragasa and subsequent heavy rains were responsible for the landslide and have decided to create a special budget for post-disaster reconstruction in the area. Deputy Economic Minister Lai Jianxing said 1,600 homes in the disaster area still need to be cleared, with the first phase of cleanup expected to be completed before Mid-Autumn Festival. A red alert remains in place for the landslide area as the overflow of outlet continues to erode and the slopes on both sides are still unstable. According to Lai, a great deal of heavy equipment is still needed in the disaster area. CEOC Deputy Commander and Transportation Minister Chief Secretary Shen Huihong has instructed the relevant department to dispatch resources accordingly. Shen said that more than 500 people have injured while distilling the site and reminded all disaster relief workers and volunteers to mind their own safety. Japanese Liberal Democratic Party leader Masashi Matsuyama led the delegation to Taiwan this week, meeting with President Lai Ching-te on Tuesday and expressing his condolence regarding the Matai'an River disaster in Hualien following Typhoon Ragasa and the subsequent heavy rains. In his speech, Matsuyama stated that both Taiwan and Japan face frequent natural disasters. Both countries should lend a helping hand to overcome difficulties. Matsuyama also expressed his condolence to the victims of Hualien disaster and his sympathy to the injured. Furthermore, he presented President Lai with a list of Japanese donations for the Hualien disasters relief effort. Thanks for joining me for the news. I'm Joey Chow. Stay tuned for another 50 minutes of English language features brought to you by Radio Taiwan International.